what we've seen at Calderon Dam.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I was looking at the land use map for Mountain View, specifically the downtown area today. And because you can anticipate this question coming up, and it really goes back to, decisions that were made to put R3 multifamily housing where there were older projects a long time ago. If you assume that, that was a good decision that we had to do, that we had to make, for the way the town grows, then the question is the product that comes in there. I've talked to those builders because I want to know why they build buildings like that. And apparently why people buy them and they like them. The few people that I talked to on the campaign trail have told me they like the vertical house because it gives them more space than what they can find anywhere else for the money. So I'm not sure that this is going to grow on us in a matter of time. I'm sure that when the landscaping and the project is completed around Calderon, perhaps there'll be more acceptance in the neighborhood. But really it comes back to questioning the zoning that we make there in the first place.
Chris this time, and go to his right. Chris?
I think it depends on what our options become afterwards. I think on paper it's a great place for housing because it's close to, like I said, major roadways and the Caltrain and public transportation. Do you do it exactly like we planned before? I don't think so. I think what we have to do better in the future, and it's not that there wasn't a lot of planning going into this, but I think one of the things we have to look at is traffic, because if you've ever been in and out of that area on a busy time, you know how busy the San Antonio area is, and this is going to create more traffic congestion, and we have to make sure that we're planning to mitigate that congestion longer term before we go in and put things in like that. So I think one option is still housing. I think it's still a great area for that. I think you could do it a little bit differently and plan for it a little bit better, or you could do some mixed-use development or even some commercial development there as kind of as an extension of the San Antonio area. But I think you have to be careful, again, with the congestion part of that, because that's something that we have to plan for longer term because it is so congested right now.
But from a business standpoint, I would like to see how that works out if HP is going to let toll roads just kind of pull out without any penalty. I would like to see housing there again, but again, not as dense, but also with better traffic mitigation, with actual mitigations this time around. And also, again, making sure that, again, that the building, how it's going to look, is going to make sense and look good in that community. To avoid what's happened here at Dana and Calderon, you don't want something that's going to dwarf the community. You don't want something that's going to, make the rest of the area look somehow, for lack of a better word, cheaper, because it's being dwarfed, or because it has this certain design that it makes the other homes not look as appealing as they were.
John?
As a consumer that used to go to Mayfield Mall and shop, I think if they pull out a clean slate, I mean, people are talking housing. Mountain View needs commercial property, retail businesses to generate the revenue to maintain the services that we have. So I would think that we could look really at a whole new mixed use there. We could go commercial, we could go open space, because you talk to some of the people in the Mayfield area, they don't think they have enough open space, and everybody agrees that open space is good. Then you could put in some housing, low density housing, or something, well, I say compatible housing to that area. So if we're going to start all over, we should do it with a broad sense and just throw out what we have and see what we can do, because it is on a commercial, it could become part of a regional shopping area, along with the housing and with the open space. It could be a village by itself, because there are no really, on this side of the tracks, they could have their own services, sort of a small
Diana?
I think Toll Brothers is a very reputable building developer, and I really think it's not because some other problem, it's because of money. And I really think they will find a way to solve the problem. And San Antonio area is a very desirable area. I believe a lot of people want to move in that area. And I look forward to see that there will be a very nice village, because I do remember I saw some plans in some the current council members, they say that will be a very nice village. I look forward to see that. And I'm sure people will really enjoy to live in Mountain View and have a very, very good environment, very good neighborhood to live there. It's really wonderful. So don't hesitate. I believe that will still go on. Thank you.
Okay, so you look at that project, and my brother's a very good developer with a venture company. I won't say which one, and I always talk about contrast. And you know, developers never really buy land outright options. They've let this option go. They're done right now. They're out. So can HP actually do this project? I don't think so. They're not builders, not land developers. They're not specialized in this. So to me, the project's dead. Now the question is, what's the alternative now? Okay, could they go back and do something commercial? Would it work and so forth like that? Or are they still going to try to push a housing project? I don't know. When we look at the traffic situation, the sad part is that generally when they do these traffic studies, they do full-use commercial, full-use housing, retail. Generally, housing comes in with lower traffic, and that's why the studies show traffic will fall when we put housing in. But that's only the way in which they design the studies. For me, I agree with Planning Commissioner McAllister. We have a clean slate. I was the only council member to not vote for because it excluded single-family homes. We need to start with a clean slate on that property.
Well, I'm not certain that the project is dead. HP is still running it. Toll is still continuing to get the entitlements, although they don't have the options anymore. And it is zoned now for housing. It was rezoned. It's no longer zoned for commercial. The only thing that could stay in there is the current building could be used as is with no modifications as an office building. Otherwise, we would have to go through an entire new zoning process to do that. When we talk about housing and in appropriate areas, that's an appropriate area. It's walking distance to commercial, it's got transit there, it's got access. We do need to address the issues of traffic with the city of Palo Alto along San Antonio. As Tom was saying, one of the issues is, right now there is no traffic generated on that site because there's nothing there, but we had to balance that against a full-scale office there, which would have more traffic.
I remember about 3 or 4 years ago when I saw the original toll designs for that property. I was going to move across Central Expressway so I could live where they were going to build a place there because they were beautiful apartments. I followed the process on the Planning Commission, not as a Planning Commissioner, but as a citizen, through the council. Years after the council approved the project, I went to DRC meetings and I saw the architectural issues unfold, and then the economic issue came up. You can say we can start with clean slate, but bear in mind that's millions and millions of dollars down the drain in investment in that property. And as a council member, if I were elected, I would have the vision to look ahead and make sure that we weren't on a path to spin wheels and spend a lot of money on a project like that.
Well, let's say that toll is out, because it seems that they are. Then I think that the vision that I would have is the Mayfield Guatemala Village, which is the idea that's been envisioned in our general plan, which we are a city of villages. So it would be mixed use, and there would be a combination of retail, perhaps commercial, lofts, and all sorts of interesting things that we couldn't seem to get by with our traditional zoning. One of the problems we have today with our city zoning is it doesn't really know how to make room for mixed use. So it either tends to go zoning for residential or zoning for commercial, and it just is tougher than anything to try and get them together. So I think there's a great example of building mixed-use zoning so we can do both commercial, both retail, or all commercial or retail and residential. And I think we should find a way to preserve those incredible trees. That's important to me.